Everyone knew Marilyn Monroe, the bombshell who seemed to radiate light even when she was spiraling into darkness. Her laugh was like champagne fizzing in a glass, her image stamped on posters, calendars, and the hormonal daydreams of a generation. To the world, she was Hollywood's golden child. But while fans saw diamonds and platinum hair, very few ever thought to ask, what about the family left in her wake? What about the people who shared her blood, who walked around carrying her last name or hiding it like a curse? It's easy to get lost in the myth of Monroe, the camera flashes, the wide smiles, the presidents and scandals. But behind Norma Jeane Mortensen, the vulnerable little girl who became Marilyn, was a family web so tangled it made a spider's nest look like modern architecture. There were half-siblings who barely knew she existed, a mother slipping in and out of psychiatric hospitals, and the kind of generational silence that turns real people into blurry footnotes in someone else's legend. Picture the opening scene, 1953. Marilyn is on the set of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Paparazzi bulbs pop like miniature explosions. She's draped in that glittering pink dress, crooning about diamonds being a girl's best friend. But somewhere else, maybe in a modest home hundreds of miles away, someone shares her face in the mirror, or her eyes, or her DNA, and nobody asks them how they feel about their sister or daughter becoming an international symbol of desire. That's the cruel magic of celebrity. It's a spotlight so bright it blinds everyone nearby. The closer you are to the star, the harder it is to see yourself. And in Marilyn's case, her family members lived lives full of quiet heartbreak, fractured connections, and the constant reminder that the world only wanted her, never them. The story we're about to unravel isn't just about Marilyn Monroe, the icon. It's about the people orbiting her life, pushed into the dark corners of history. The forgotten half-sister who discovered her Hollywood connection only as a teenager. The mother whose instability colored Marilyn's childhood and left scars that never healed. And the half-brother, so absent from her story that he's become more myth than man. These are not tales of glitz and glamour. They are stories of survival, estrangement, and the quiet agony of being tethered to one of the most famous women who ever lived. Imagine being born into that shadow. Imagine watching the world worship your sister while you struggle with your own identity. Imagine knowing that your mother's demons were also your inheritance. What really happened to Marilyn Monroe's troubled family? Marilyn Monroe wasn't born into a Hollywood dream. She was born into chaos. Norma Jeane Mortensen came into the world in 1926, the daughter of Gladys Pearl Baker, a woman already carrying heavy emotional baggage. Gladys had been married, divorced, and remarried by the time Norma Jeane was born, and her grip on stability was slippery at best. There was no doting nuclear family here, just the shaky foundation of a single mother battling mental illness in a world that had no sympathy and even less treatment. As the legend of Marilyn Monroe began to take shape, so did the shadow it cast over her family. Imagine the scene. A little girl shuffled between foster homes, each goodbye cutting deeper, each move another reminder that she didn't have the safety net most kids take for granted. Gladys drifted in and out of institutions, sometimes lucid, often not. To a young Norma Jeane, this wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was the opening act in a lifelong drama of abandonment. By the time Hollywood took notice of her, Norma Jeane had already built an armor out of charm, vulnerability, and ambition. She knew how to perform survival before she ever learned to perform on screen. And when the cameras finally rolled, the world only saw the glitter, never the cracks. The studios knew this. They loved it. They polished her into the Marilyn Monroe brand, a name that sparkled, a smile that sold millions of tickets. But what about her family, left behind in that studio smoke? Gladys was locked in institutions, the ghost of a mother who hovered over Marilyn's life like an unanswered question. And there were others, siblings, connected by blood but severed by distance and silence. The headlines screamed about Marilyn's romances, her box office records, and her scandalous affairs. But no one was printing stories about Bernice Miracle, the half-sister who only learned of Marilyn's existence when she was 16. No one cared about Robert Kermit Baker, the half-brother who lived mostly in obscurity, almost erased from her narrative. The fame machine had no time for them. In fact, their existence complicated the perfect Hollywood myth. Better to leave them in the shadows. And that's exactly what happened. The family of Marilyn Monroe was swept under the rug of her legend. Their stories left to gather dust while her image glittered on billboards. But family shadows don't just disappear. They lurk, they shape, they haunt. Marilyn herself carried the scars of abandonment, secrecy, and fractured kinships, and those scars didn't vanish just because she wore diamonds. They leaked into her relationships, her insecurities, her infamous fragility. And when she died in 1962, the shockwaves weren't just felt by fans clutching magazines. Her death reopened the wounds of the people who had lived in her shadow all along. Everything changed when the spotlight burned too hot, when the myth consumed the woman, and when the family she left behind became unwilling characters in a story they never auditioned for. But behind the legend were the hidden lives of her children. Not children she birthed, but the fractured pieces of family left to bear her legacy. Few people realize just how much of Marilyn's bloodline is haunted not by fame, but by silence. And to understand that silence, we need to step into the lives of the people history almost forgot. Number 3. Bernice Miracle. Born Bernice Inez Gladys Baker on July 30th, 1919 in Venice, California. She entered the world 7 years before Norma Jeane, and yet for most of her childhood, she had no idea she even had a sister. That's how fractured this family tree was. Half branches growing in different directions, rarely meeting. Bernice's father was Jasper Newton Baker, the same man who married Gladys before she gave birth to Norma Jeane. When that marriage imploded, Jasper took Bernice and her brother Robert with him to Kentucky. He started fresh, remarried, and effectively cut off Gladys from her children. Meanwhile, Gladys drifted into her own instability and later had Norma Jeane with another man. The result? Bernice grew up believing she and her brother were motherless, while Norma Jeane grew up believing she was an only child. Then came the bombshell. In 1938, at age 16, Bernice received a letter from her long-lost mother. Inside wasn't just a shaky attempt at reconnection, it was a revelation. She had a little sister, a sister named Norma Jeane. Imagine that moment. 16 years old, hormones raging, life in Kentucky feeling pretty small-town ordinary, and then, surprise, you're related to someone whose fate will soon make her the most famous woman on earth. Bernice didn't meet Marilyn right away. Their first meeting came in 1944, when Norma Jeane was already modeling, with that Hollywood glow beginning to shine. The two sisters hit it off, forming a bond that was warm, if not perfectly close. They laughed, they shared secrets, they looked into each other's faces and saw echoes of themselves. In Marilyn, Bernice found not just a sister, but a bridge to the mother she'd lost. But here's the thing about Marilyn Monroe's orbit. Closeness came with a cost. Bernice's life was not glamorous. She married Paris Miracle in 1938, settled into a domestic routine, and raised her daughter, Mona Ray. She was not photographed on red carpets or chased by men in tuxedos. She was the quieter sibling, the one living in Marilyn's rearview mirror. And yet Bernice carried the strange burden of intimacy with the most desired woman in America. She got the late-night phone calls, the private confessions about loneliness and betrayal. She was there when Marilyn's marriages crumbled, when the dumb blonde mask slipped, when the sisterly bond mattered more than any Hollywood contract. Everything changed in 1962. When Marilyn died, Bernice was one of the very few family members involved in the arrangements. She helped identify her sister's body, a task so harrowing it stayed with her for life. She stood in that morgue, looking down at the woman the world had objectified and adored, and saw not Marilyn Monroe, but Norma Jeane, the little sister she'd only known for 18 years. Bernice never became a tabloid headline. She lived quietly in Florida, surviving her sister by more than 50 years. In 1985, she co-authored a memoir with her daughter, My Sister Marilyn, which pulled back the curtain on the woman the world thought they knew. It was part confession, part tribute, part survival mechanism. She once said that she didn't think of Marilyn as a superstar, but as a sweet, sensitive little girl who just wanted to be loved. That line haunts because it strips away the glitter and leaves us with the truth. Behind every myth, there's a family who remembers the human being. Bernice Miracle died in 2014 at the age of 94. Her passing barely made headlines. The world that worshipped her sister barely noticed. But in her own way, she was a survivor. A woman who lived in the long, complicated shadow of Marilyn Monroe and who never let it extinguish her quiet, ordinary dignity.
Number 2. Gladys Pearl Baker, born May 27, 1902 in Mexico. If Marilyn Monroe's story reads like a Hollywood fairy tale, Gladys's life was the cautionary tale scrawled in the margins. She was the mother of Norma Jeane, but mother feels like a fragile word here, one that bent and cracked under the weight of mental illness, poverty, and the crushing expectations of early 20th century womanhood. Gladys was a dreamer at first. She worked as a film cutter at RKO Pictures, splicing together reels of other people's stories while her own life was unraveling. She married young, divorced, remarried, divorced again, and somewhere in between, her grip on stability loosened. When she gave birth to Norma Jeane in 1926, the world around her was already collapsing. Within a few years, her ability to care for her daughter dissolved completely. Imagine it. A young child being shuffled from home to home, always with the faint hope that her mother might reappear and stay this time. But Gladys couldn't. Her struggles with schizophrenia, or what doctors of that era crudely labeled paranoid delusions, kept her in and out of psychiatric institutions for most of her adult life. In 1934, she was committed permanently, and from then on, she drifted in the hazy fog of institutional living. For Norma Jeane, this absence was catastrophic. She grew up craving stability, aching for a mother's touch that rarely came. The irony of Hollywood worshiping her as the ultimate symbol of femininity was not lost on her. The world saw Marilyn Monroe, goddess incarnate, while the little girl inside her still cried out for Gladys. But Gladys didn't vanish entirely. In the 1950s, long after Marilyn had become a global icon, Gladys resurfaced, living quietly in a nursing home, a fragile presence on the periphery of her daughter's meteoric fame. For brief stretches, she seemed lucid enough to re-enter her daughter's life. But those moments never lasted. The illness always returned, and with it came a chilling reminder. Marilyn's greatest fear was inheriting her mother's madness. Everything changed in 1962. Marilyn's sudden death at 36 sent shockwaves across the globe, but for Gladys, it was another kind of devastation. Institutionalized and under supervision, she was shielded from the full media circus, but she knew her daughter was gone. And then came the cruelest twist. The world would forever idolize Marilyn while largely forgetting Gladys existed. Gladys outlived her daughter by over 20 years, dying in 1984 at the age of 81. That fact alone is surreal. The mother, long dismissed as a ghost in her own child's story, outliving the most famous sex symbol of the 20th century. In her later years, she reportedly told caretakers she was afraid of people poisoning her food, shadows of her lifelong paranoia still clinging to her. Her story is haunting because it underlines the core tragedy of Marilyn Monroe's life, a woman desperate for love, connection, and maternal warmth who was born to a mother incapable of giving it. Gladys Pearl Baker was not evil nor deliberately cruel. She was sick, and in an era where mental illness was a stigma rather than an illness, her story and Marilyn's spiraled into tragedy. Imagine it. being Marilyn, sitting alone in a lavish dressing room, mascara streaking down your face after yet another heartbreak, and thinking, will I end up like her? That was the question that stalked her, the shadow she couldn't quite outrun. Gladys's life reminds us that legends are built on broken foundations. Behind the platinum hair and million-dollar smile was a scared little girl whose mother lived behind locked hospital doors. That's not gossip, that's generational pain. And it shaped not just Marilyn, but every family member tethered to her legacy.
Number 1. Robert Kermit Baker, born January 16, 1918, in Los Angeles, California. If Bernice was the half-sister who carried Marilyn's memory like a cherished, if painful secret, Robert was the opposite, the sibling who almost completely vanished from her story. He was Bernice's full brother. The child, Jasper Jap Baker, whisked away when his marriage to Gladys imploded. Unlike Bernice, Robert never bridged the gap back to Norma Jeane. He lived and died as the ghost branch of the Monroe family tree. Robert's childhood was already marked by instability. After his father gained custody, Robert grew up in Kentucky alongside Bernice, cut off from Gladys and utterly unaware that somewhere in California, a little sister named Norma Jeane was stumbling through foster homes. By the time Marilyn became Marilyn, Robert's life had already taken a quieter, harsher turn. The truth is, little is known about him, and that silence is deafening. Records show that he struggled with health issues, his life punctuated less by headlines and more by the grinding anonymity of rural living. While his sister Bernice eventually reconnected with Norma Jeane and forged a bittersweet relationship, Robert remained a step removed, physically, emotionally, historically. He never met Marilyn. Imagine that for a second. Your half-sister is the most famous woman on the planet. Her face is plastered on every magazine, her voice drifts from radios, her scandals are discussed in whispers at every diner in America, and yet you remain invisible. No reporters camped outside your door, no family invitations to Hollywood premieres, not even a late-night phone call bridging the gap, just silence. Robert's fate was sealed early. He was diagnosed with kidney disease, a cruel, slow erosion of his health. In 1933, when he was only 15 years old, he died, long before Marilyn's first modeling job, long before the world ever knew her name. At the time of his death, Norma Jeane was just 7 years old, already bouncing between foster care and guardians, already developing the resilience that would later propel her to stardom. She probably didn't even know his name, let alone that he was her brother. And that's the tragedy. Robert Kermit Baker lived and died almost entirely in the shadows, erased not by scandal or choice, but by circumstance. While Bernice carried Marilyn's memory into her own long life, Robert was denied that chance. He never got to share in the secret joy or the heartbreak of discovering his famous sibling. He became the forgotten child, the family's unspoken wound. His story matters because it reveals just how fractured Marilyn Monroe's family really was. It wasn't just distance, it was silence, secrets, and early deaths that carved holes into the fabric of their connections. Robert's short, quiet life is the counterpoint to Marilyn's blinding fame. She became immortal in the public imagination, while he disappeared into a single line on a genealogy chart. Few people realize that Marilyn Monroe, the eternal goddess of Hollywood, had a brother who never saw her shine. Robert died in obscurity, never knowing the myth his little sister would become. And perhaps in a way, that's a mercy. He never bore the crushing weight of her fame, never had to answer intrusive questions, never lived under the constant reminder of being Marilyn's brother. He slipped away before the world turned his sister into an icon. Still, his absence lingers, because behind the shimmering Monroe legacy is not just glamour and scandal, it's loss. Loss of siblings separated by courts, by geography, by illness, by death.
loss that no studio gloss could cover. Robert Kermit Baker's story is short, quiet, and nearly forgotten. But in this family of broken ties and haunting shadows, even silence speaks volumes.
Legacies are strange things. They don't just cling to the famous, they seep into everyone tethered to the name. For Marilyn Monroe's family, the legacy wasn't just red carpets and platinum hair, it was silence, secrets, and the ache of being connected to a woman the world adored but never truly knew. Take Bernice Miracle. She lived a long life in Florida, far from Hollywood spotlights, yet she could never fully escape being Marilyn's sister. For decades, she carried the quiet burden of telling her daughter and grandchildren that the smiling woman on TV was more than just a celebrity, it was flesh and blood. Her memoir was not a cash grab, but a desperate attempt to humanize Marilyn, to remind the world that behind the sex symbol was a fragile, yearning woman named Norma Jeane. Then there's Gladys Pearl Baker. Her story is the one most people prefer to skip because it's messy, painful, and doesn't fit the Hollywood script. A mother lost to illness, a woman locked away while her daughter was worshipped. She outlived Marilyn by 2 decades, and yet her life was defined not by survival but by absence. The public had no use for Gladys. She wasn't glamorous, she wasn't scandalous, she wasn't marketable. She was the ghost haunting the myth. And finally, Robert Kermit Baker. His life was cut so short he barely had a chance to cast a shadow, let alone step into his sister's. He never even knew her, and yet his absence echoes because it completes the fractured picture. A brother erased, a sister idolized, a mother institutionalized, another sister burdened with remembrance. Few people realize how Marilyn's life was shaped, warped, and ultimately broken by this fractured lineage. The lack of a stable family wasn't just background noise, it was the defining silence of her existence. Imagine being Marilyn Monroe, the most desired woman alive, with the world's adoration poured at your feet and still feeling utterly alone. That loneliness didn't materialize out of thin air. It was born in the spaces her family couldn't fill. And that's the haunting truth. Fame doesn't cure abandonment. Diamonds don't replace mothers. Headlines don't erase broken bonds. For Marilyn's family, surviving her legacy meant carrying both pride and pain, both the shimmer and the shadow. Bernice became the quiet keeper of memory, Gladys the cautionary ghost, and Robert the forgotten child. Each one, in their own way, reveals the personal cost of being tethered to a myth. Behind every legendary name are lives the world was never meant to see. Marilyn Monroe's story was dazzling, tragic, and unforgettable, but her family stories, fragmented, hidden, nearly erased, remind us that fame often casts longer, darker shadows than anyone can imagine. So the question lingers. If you carried the Monroe name, would you wear it like a crown or bury it forever?